some thousand pounds, then the base has to be like 52,000. In other words, it has to hold double the weight, so it's secure. Now, the only problem I think we ran into, we were discussing about the ground. I think that's the only thing that we're still talking about, because we got to put it into the ground and then up. But that's a detail in the construction of the base.
And again, some initial ideas for placement. You see the map that we thought maybe at the end of 87th near the cul-de-sac. It was also suggested maybe going closer to the ore walls, kind of about the point. So we're looking for input
I'll pass
too.
this down so you guys can look at the pictures.
Yeah, wait, wait.
I would say that something like this, 87 seems to be a good corridor for a sculpture of that nature, to just, for people to kind of, to put it the Orwell, it suggests that you have to come into the 41 route in order to actually really appreciate it.
Well, it's
This is
sort of like
a welcoming
87.
color.
You'll be able to see it when you drive by, you'll be able to see it quickly from, well, depending on where you're going, but you'll be able to see it from 87. If it gets placed right, you'll be able to see it, hopefully, from the train tracks.
See,
That's my plan. I know it's far, and we got a little hump, a little, kind of like a little hill, but hopefully you'll be able to see at least part of the hat or something, but I got a feeling that you will be able to see something from the train station.
So it sounds like there's some interest in doing it at the end of 87th at the cul-de-sac there. So as you look east, it kind of draws you to the end of the site.
That would be interesting to see.
And gives you the curiosity, go and see what it is.
Yeah. It's an entry piece. It's like a family saying, come, welcome in here. Kind of gives some indigeneity, and it also gives, it's a welcoming image. You know, it's not overly abstract or anything like that. It's recognizable. You know, it says a lot about the Southeast side.
And this kind of input, information exchange we want out of this to get people's ideas and concerns if there are some. But
Now, 87, is that the only entrance to the park? Do you know?
right now, yes, yeah. And I mean, it was mentioned earlier, Jackie had mentioned the interconnection to the community. We've intentionally, and the development team have allowed for these connections you see at, what, 83rd, 85th, 87th. So we didn't want to bisect the two areas. We want to have that interaction. But 87th is right now the longest stretch, and in addition to 83rd would be continue to be the longest connection.
That's a good beginning.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start. Instead of you're adding more than you can go in.
Well, as a sculptor, I see the big picture. To me, when I see it, I just oh wow, look at this, look at this. It's exciting to be part of this.
And I like the symbolization of it. The concealment worker and the family. You're right, the family was part of the Steelworkers.
And see, one of the reasons that I'm using the minimalist style is so that anybody could identify with it. If I started putting in a certain face and that somebody will try to say, well, that's this person. So I'm trying to stay as far away from that so that everybody could enjoy it at any level. That's why I'm using this minimalist style with these figures the way I'm working them.
I thought he kind of looked like you, actually. And a very handsome person at that. See, subconsciously.
I don't ever remember, I grew up with mustaches. When we were in the mill, I think everybody had a mustache. I very rarely do I ever remember something myself. Everybody had mustaches. I don't know how to remember any that didn't have them. It was part of, you know what I've done? Just something that we were talking about the other day. Did anybody ever get fired from USD? I was sitting here with other steelworkers the other day, and we were all telling ourselves, nobody ever got fired. I don't ever remember.
I think they would get fired if they didn't come to work so many days, and then they were told they couldn't come back. That's when they got fired.
I don't know. I really think nobody ever got fired. I think everybody just had a good time.
If they did, they'd walk down the street and get a job at another mill.
Exactly.
I've got a friend who said that he's worked at 5 different mills.
Well, I worked in 3, Wisconsin, U.S., Inland.
My first 2 jobs at the age of 16 through Richard J. Gaines program, Neighborhood New Corps, was right here at USC. I was 16. That was my first ever job in life, and I loved it. I went to Republic on what was that, 106.
Yeah, 16.
Yeah. And those many of us in that area, those were our first jobs through the summer program, which was only one, and that was Neighborhood Youth Corps. But it was something that high school students look forward to.
Well, my father put us in there at 17 because he didn't want us being on the street. So he put us to would work 3 to 11, so you were too tired to mess around.
You're right.
So you only could get up, go to school, and go to work. And it worked, but after that, we were drafted, went to the military, came back to the work, so. I'm glad that we did that, but it was fun. It was fun to work with you. Good memory.
Yeah.
Wait, we had someone else, I'm sorry.
Getting fired from the mills, and I think, I don't know if it was Ed Sadlowski or Frank Stanley a few years ago, we were talking about some of the history. Talked about the fact that in the heyday of the mills, a guy would get laid off or fired in the front, he'd go around in the back where they were hired and come right back in, sometimes with the same name, sometimes with a different name. So that sometimes there was a circular process, you know, the place was so big that it was possible to do that.
Well, you know what we miss, especially us that grew up here? The taverns. There was so many taverns in our community that it was unbelievable, and it was fun.
Tavern, church, bakery, tavern, church,
And they were so much fun. They're gone now, but they used to be a lot of fun.
Can I just say one thing? It's so amazing that, you know, this replica of what you're proposing to do has generated such great stories that you're sharing already. Can you imagine what's going to happen when that sculpture's out there? I think it's beautiful.
Well, I think we should make a project plan, and we should record some of these stories for our archives and for history. I mean, I think that's very important. Well, we have something going that's going to be something. We hooked up with Red Moon, but that's another project that me and Roman are working on, where we're going to be doing documentary. So that's in the plans for ourselves.
That's great. Well, it seems like there's general support, consensus that we're headed in the right direction in terms of the sculpture and the placement. Am I misspeaking there? Everyone pretty much is in agreement with that? Okay. And the reason I'm saying, I'm trying to gauge some input because, as Roman said, there's a timeline here. We're trying to do September 6th. A lot of this takes significant time. We want to enjoy the summer, have an opening ceremony, and incorporate a bunch of things. So with that, I think I'm going to ask Joanne and Kevin to talk about an idea that you had in terms of the path, and Jackie or Roman made reference to it in terms of the sculptor park and a trail. So this is somewhat analogous to that.
Well, really, it's Ron's idea, so.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We'd like to, somehow, we haven't quite figured out how to do it. We're historians, we're not artists, so we have trouble with that visual stuff. That somehow we would try in a display to show the Calumet River, which is the reason the steel industry is here, and which kind of tied all the mills together. If you came down the Calumet River, say 1950, you'd go between 2 mills at the mouth of the river, you'd go a little bit further and you'd go past Old Iroquois Steel at 95th Street, John H. Moore at about 97th Street, Wisconsin Steel at 106th, other side of the river, Acme Steel, conveyor bridge across the river, and although it wasn't on the river, it was on Torrance Avenue, the Acme Coke plant, and we would try to convey that in sort of a walking path, where you would be walking the route of the Calumet River, and we would be displaying the history of various mills that stood at those points along the river. And that would, of course, pay homage to the entire steel industry in this area.
Like a river
On land, but something that would be like walking the river.
The path of it, if it made an S curve, the path would go in an S path.
Yeah, because I mean, when you come in the Calumet River, it kind of comes in at a diagonal, and then around 95th it turns and it goes straight. There's a couple of small bends that could bend around 106, and if we could somehow lay that out, and then have displays that would show the various mills from the area.
Almost like a garden, you could make the path be the river part,
Right.
and then you could have like little tiny models of the different.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, just exhibits and displays that would portray that particular mill. Material's not a problem. We have plenty of stuff on all of those mills. But
You
it's,
have to figure out a scale and that would be
right,
appropriate.
right.
And Bob Foster from the Park District suggested that we use some of the walkways that's already there. But that would be, years from now. But to begin with, we'll have a table set up for the ribbon cutting. Maybe, do you think this is the moment? So if we had sort of a model of the river and
Maybe twice that length.
Oh, okay.
You're saying for the day of the ceremony to have kind of like points, or?
Well, at least, something in the net that
Oh,
would,
okay.
be a model of what would be out. And the ideal is that for the opening, we would actually have plaques along the pathway. But we're expecting a lot of other, groups to be there, so we're in everybody's territory. We can give you an idea of,
We can always focus that northern part of the Park 523, which is, you know what I mean? And that could kind of serve.
oh, okay, you know, that's, wow, busy.
So obviously, we're talking more than just a park dedication in terms of the name and a sculpture. We're trying to incorporate other activities into it as well. And there was some mention of Bob Foster, so how timely that I'll ask Bob Foster from the Park District talk a little bit more about the site and some more of the park ideas that we're trying to elicit to make this a functional park. And just to remind everyone, this park was always planned to be a passive park. There was no plans to put baseball diamonds or football. So that's the kind of intent or the direction that we want to continue to pursue. But I'm going to let Bob, who's much more park-oriented than myself, talk a little bit.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thanks.
Again, my name is Bob Foster, Chicago Park District. I thought I was working on this project for a long time, since 2004, but hearing all these other stories, I guess I'm a newcomer. A little bit about the history of the project as far as the park is related. We've been saying Park 523, soon to be Steelworkers Park, but the reason why it's called Park 523, we're pretty creative, it's our 523rd park. So that's the number we use. And we're going to be getting land north of the slip, along from Rainbow Park all the way down to the slip, and that's Park 566, because it was our 566th park. So a little bit of history about the site. Approximately 2002 to 2003, the Park District received a grant from the state of Illinois, and that grant was for muddy parks. Now you probably maybe heard a little bit about muddy parks, but in our dealings with the site, not a whole lot of plant material will grow on slab. So what we had to do is find a cheap source for topsoil. And that source was something that the state of Illinois was working on in the Illinois River, or Lake Peoria, which is the Illinois River dammed up at Lake Peoria. What's happening there is, quick story, since 1908, they put the locks and dams in. Since then, it's been collecting sediment because the spring floods can't wash it all down to the Mississippi Delta, the Louisiana Delta. So it's been collecting. Illinois River used to be approximately 8 feet deep on average. Now it's 18 inches. So they need to dredge it, and the topsoil everywhere there. So we need topsoil here. So we collaborated together, and they dredged the river down there and sent it upriver and deposited it on the USX site. So finally, they sent something upriver instead of us sending everything downriver. So that's a quick example. So that first started happening in 2004. In 2006, they were completed, and we started the development of this project. That's when 87th Street was being completed. We thought it was all going to be opened up. It didn't happen, but that park's been there since 2006. And as Alderman said, it just opened in October. And so now people are finally going out there and finding, hey, this land's been here and no one's ever been able to use it. And I know the fishermen are very excited that it's out there because it's now the best perch fishing spot in the entire Chicago area. Yes.
I found it fascinating on the most coldest days that was frozen. I literally was driving past these walls and I came home and I'm like, oh, that is so cool to see people out there literally on the little water they're fishing. I'm like, that's
It's a party on the ice.
But it was so cool to see it. I'm like, I gotta get my camera.
Right. And it's really interesting out there. You get out there, you walk along the shoreline. There's a little road that's still being used by the Army Corps of Engineers. But you go out there and you can see, there's shoals out in the lake. And so maybe that's one of the reasons when we were saying they expanded out in the lake, they expanded where those shoals were too. So, maybe there was no reasoning behind that. But some of that's still out there. There's great natural features out just a few feet underwater. So I could talk on and on about that. So that park's been out there since 2006. We're still getting Muddy Parks money. Last year we brought in 20 barges. This year we may be able to get another money for 10 more barges on the north side. So you can bring your family out there, kids, see the barges come up, loading, unloading, bringing the material out. It's quite a sight actually. So
you could email me, let me know.
sure, yeah. We're still waiting, but sometime probably July, they'll be out. So, the park is very passive right now. If you've been out there, it's pretty much trails, grass, and a few benches, and that's it. And we go all the way up to the slip, and the park district does own some of the ore walls. If you could show them on there, I don't know if you can see it here. But you can actually see from 87th Street.
Right under the 12 ones, better to give it a different crowd.
Yeah. Basically, the park owns that, from my paper down to the lake. So, we're looking at a lot of different things out there. Some things that will be happening immediately, I can pass this one again. We're going to be programming this site a lot more. If you guys know a little bit about the programming, but our programming people, we're doing a lot of nature explorers out here. We're taking local kids here. We're going to be doing fishing. Bob Long, our fishing guy, is going to be out here teaching kids how to fish, bringing them out here. It's a great facility. Why go to other parks and just stay right here and do all the fishing? The festival that you were talking about already, that's due for September. But primarily why I'm here, and I'm off on a tangent, is to maybe get an idea what more we can do out there. So it's already been brought up that a drinking fountain is needed out there. There's no source of water, we'll have to do a new source. More benches out there. The sculpture was already talked about. What else can we do out there? This is still kind of a passive park, so we're not going to be doing baseball fields. We're not going to be doing football fields. Maybe on the parcel to the north, but that will be another planning exercise. And so, the idea of a playground came up. But it's really not a neighborhood park. Will the playground get used a lot? Or should we do some creative, smaller things for children, little pods or something? So, answer the
I
question.
have a couple questions. One, you're talking about having the kids go fishing. Have these waters in this barge slip been tested?
The water's Lake Michigan. So,
You're saying that the exchange rate is so fast that the water in the barge slip is the same water as Lake Michigan?
nice.
So you tested it?
Okay, we tested it, but
Okay. And then the other thing is, because it is, our orals are about 2,000 miles, 2,000 feet long, which is close to half a mile. So basically, it's a 1 mile round trip to go from our neighborhood, which is Bush, to the lakefront. That's a 1 mile round trip. So you thought of putting bathrooms in here?
bathrooms come up. It's very difficult for us to put bathrooms on a non-staffed site. And, people don't treat it like they treat their own homes out there. So it does get a lot of abuse. We are going to be looking into porta potties this summer,
Okay.
and that's a temporary solution. We'll look more into, as this area gets developed, hopefully there'll be opportunities to use restrooms there. But yeah, we're very sensitive to the needs of going to the bathroom.
Well, these porta potties are temporary.
Yes.
Maybe some signage along the lake which indicates that this is a very, very small part of Lake Michigan, but to kind of orient, you are here, and the rest of it is another 300 miles long, whatever, and then maybe connect that in some way to the other Great Lakes so that people get a real concept of this is where we are and large pictures.
It's like informational signage or kiosk, something of that nature, is that
Yeah.
possible?
Kiosk, we can put a kiosk out there. We have that typically in our parks, so we could do something like that.
What about little fencing or railings, kind of delineate the perimeter or for safety as well?
Right, and also fencing that was brought up that, the site's very raw still, in a nice way. There's, old fencing that's, growing through trees, some of it's just coming straight out of the slag. So, it may look neat, but from a safety point of view, that's probably not something that we want to keep. So, we're going to be looking to just clean up the site a little bit and possibly put another fence. A lot of people are just driving right through the site right now. We don't want that to happen, so maybe we do some fencing right there. Just, it is a park. You're not supposed to be driving through a park. So, and if you have to walk 300 feet to go fishing, then you're going to walk 300 feet to go fishing. Sure, given the choice, I'd like to park 5 feet away from where I'm going to fish too. But again, this is a park, we have to treat it like that. So we're going to be looking to do some of those improvements, clean it up a little bit, direct people a little bit more, and if some of that's for fencing, then we'll do that too.
As long as we have fencing, I think walking's good.
Yeah.
We need some, we got two, like, lazy. I mean, and places that people can rest, I think that's cool. But there's gonna be a lot of grass.
And there are some benches out there right now. Now, has anyone, well, raise your hands real quick if you've ever been at the park yet. No. Very good, then everyone has. So there's a few benches out there right now, but, you know, with more people coming, it's nice to have a few more. You had a question?
I was just wondering because of the whole Daniel Burnham thing happening along Lakeshore Drive in the 30s and on to past Hyde Park. There's a lot of grasses and sawgrass or whatever you want to call it. Is any of that being considered for this area? Is it too small for that park, or are they, you know, for those that might like the whole nature thing?
It's out there right now.
It's there now.
So-
It's a great bike ride. It's a great, all the way from 95th to Rainbow Park, and then you can fly down to.
I know the Rainbow Park,
But it really does, it connects up to Rainbow Park. It's really beautiful.
So as far as the grasses though, we comment, that all that's out there right now are native plantings.
Yeah.
The turf grass is actually the low mold grass, and then the longer stuff is native Illinois prairie plants right now. And during the fall migration, there's butterflies, there's birds. Right now, the ducks that you can see in the slip and everything, there's 20 different kinds of ducks out there right now. So yeah, that will stay a part of the project.
I'm glad you mentioned ducks, because I found a dead duck out there yesterday when I was walking my dogs, and it was a duck I had never seen. It's like almost 100% black, and it's got 2 little white marks here and 2 little white marks on the wings. Does anyone know?
Yeah,
Is that a loop?
check Chicago
No,
Tonight.
it's not a loop.
Chicago Tonight, someone from Field Museum,
What?
Josh Engel from Field Museum,
Sorry,
talking about the sort of starvation of some of the
yeah,
stuff.
they haven't been able to find food much.
And that was one that he talked about. Right now, I don't remember exactly what it was called.
It might be that golden eye.
You mentioned merganser as one of the ducks that they talked about. I
Tonight.
don't know if there were others.
Chicago Tonight Channel.
Just call Field Museum and ask for Josh Engel, sorry, Josh Engel. He was the one who was talking about that.
Oh, thank you.
Tremendous dialogue.
The one question I had was, I know last summer out there, I believe there was like some type of bees in the ore walls.
Yes.
Is that still gonna be there, or?
Yes,
I know
so,
some of that was.
Relocate.
yeah, so as part of filming, you know, last year they filmed the Transformers Part 4,
Yes.
maybe. So they moved the bees for there, and I'm not sure if they're coming back, but the bees, this is for honey. People are out there, they had a permit to raise honeybees out there, and, you know, benefits not only local flowers.
Is that the honey they sold at the festival?
Yeah, award-winning honey.
Very good honey.
So, yeah, opportunities like that, yeah. If they still have a permit, we're not gonna kick them out. Yes.
Okay, last question. It's sort of been floating around for a few years that people in this neighborhood should be forming a Parks Advisory Council, which is a way for local people to contribute and comment and complain about Park District. Well, hopefully not complain direct, but at any rate, one of the processes that you have to go through to form a Parks Advisory Council is you have to advertise your council in the local field house. But there's no field house there. So,
If I could direct that question to Anita?
Okay, so we go to the nearest field house, which would be Russell Square. The city here is the park supervisor at Russell Square.
So the advertising would take place there?
Yes.
And I'm sure we could post it on poles or some other local areas on the doors here, flyer the neighborhood. So would it be appropriate at this point to start thinking about a local advisory council for the park?
Well, it is a park, definitely, and we have the 2 people here who you need to talk to.
Thanks for volunteering, Karen.
And so, yeah, you can talk to them, and they can tell you about more of the process and getting started.
Just really
Yes.
quickly, Kevin said something to me I didn't quite get what it was. And as I looked past you out the window, we just missed the most gorgeous sunset on the ore walls. It's like something out of another world.
I was trying to get her, I was doing a video and I was hoping she was getting still shots of it. But I don't know if it happened or not, because if I talk too much then I kill the audio.
Come back another day.
It would have been a great, you know, in this setting, it would have been very nice.
Sunrises are great out there, you know, sunsets looking down 87, the ore walls frame it. So we're looking to keep the ore walls, we're not looking to demolish them.
You know, let me ask you that, because some people have said, hey, they've talked to me and said, we're going to do some things out there in terms of getting married. Get married at a local church, St. Michael's, for example, take some photos out there. with the sunset, just a nice view with the lakefront in the back on a green setting. Would a gazebo be something that could be asked for the community for, if artists want to do a presentation, if it's a 12 by 12, they have a platform, if we want to do local talent singing out there, would that be something that's viable, or does the Park District have experience in that type of amenity?
Yeah, again, whenever we have structures or anything like that, our policy tends to be do it at a staff location.
Okay.
It's just a little bit hard, but we do have portable stages. That could be used for that, like movies in the park, something like that. We have a portable system that if that's something that happens in the future, maybe shine it on the war wall, have a movie on the war wall.
That would be cool.
Or, have a stage
I used to
there.
travel all the way downtown and to other parks to go see movies in the park.
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up. I think I see Anita smiling. I remember reading something from the Park District basically asking if local neighborhoods or organizations, sponsors want to sponsor the movies in the park, although we're in spring right now and it feels like winter, summer will soon be here.
Right.
That could be an opportunity for us to ask someone, maybe it's Lakeside, maybe it's US Steel, hey, would you like to sponsor a movie in the park, and do just that, maybe shoot it.
I think it'd be a great idea.
Maybe you can start with Nanook and the noise.
I'm sorry?
You might start with Nanook and the noise or something.
Yeah, it could be a relative movie, relative to the site, so maybe we'll follow up with that.
How do you decide whether you're gonna have to pay for parking or not?
Park District does not own any parking out there. That's all 87th Street, which is owned by CDOT.
And you have to pay to park at Rainbow, but not at Cal, so how do you decide that?
Oh, I don't know. To be honest,
Let's not let them know.
I've kind of been, I've steered away from that, not trying to create additional parking. There are some parking requirements or fees at some of the parks. I've said we need to enhance our parks. Having people pay at the parks will probably discourage them, so I've tried to keep the Park District away from our parks.
How do you get away from Rainbow?
That's your Alderman.
You gotta talk to your alderman for that.
Once it was done, once they allowed it, that's it, too late.
That's
All
the
right,
seventh
so here
ward.
it is for any questions or comments for Bob?
so yeah, so.
Last minute question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
It's a two-part. How do you decide, was it decided that you would not staff the park? And the other question is, what about a bicycle rental out there?
Okay, so staff in the park, we generally only staff parks that have field houses, like Russell Square. We have a lovely staff there, helping me out, but there, she'll go out there, her staff will go out there, our people will go out there and observe it, to look at it. So we're gonna have people out there every single day. Right now, it's Park District Security that opens the gate on 87th Street to open up the park and the whole stretch right there. So we're out there every day, we clean, we mow the grass, whatever needs to be done. And the second part again?
Bicycle. What about a bike rental?
We have a process where we invite vendors to make bids on every location, and if that's a location that they think they can make money at, we'll put a bid on it.
Now, we also have the divvy program, which is on public ways, so it doesn't necessarily have to be on park property. So we've talked about this internally a little bit. Where are some sites throughout the ward that would make sense? Some suggestions, ideas have been near the commuter spots, so at the Metro, for example, 87th, 93rd, those kind of sites. More relative to this, there was talk about, do we do it at the entrance to the park at 87th and South Lakeshore Drive, so that people have the opportunity to take advantage of it right there. Or maybe further north there, near the Orwalls, where there's some existing parking spots on the outer lanes. So we're talking with the divvy